Good morning, fantastic fourth graders. Today we're going to continue our work with comparing decimals. Today we're going to compare and order decimals by comparing digits in the same place values and using place value charts. Let's take a look at our problem of the day. Juliana and her friends are running. Juliana runs 67 hundredths miles. Christina runs 66 hundredths miles, and Megan runs 7 hundredths miles, or 7/10. Order these numbers from greatest to least to find out who ran the farthest. Today we're going to use a place value chart. Okay? Let's read the problem again and annotate our information. Again, if you don't have this problem printed out, that's fine. You can still draw the place value chart on your lined paper. Remember, you can pause the video and re-watch a part if you need some more time. Juliana and her friends are running. Juliana runs 67 hundredths miles. Christina runs 66 hundredths of a mile. And Megan runs 70 hundredths miles, or we could say 7/10. Our task is to order these numbers from greatest to least to find out who ran the farthest. As I said before, we're using a place value chart. Do you remember what place value is to the left of your decimal point? That's right, that's the ones place. Here's your decimal point. That means your decimal point will go all the way down for each value. Which place value is to the right of your decimal point? You got it, the tenths place. Make sure you say tenths, not tens. That's to the left of the ones. The tenths with a TH is to the right of the decimal. Which place value is to the right of the tenths place? That's right, the hundredths. Remember, it's not the hundreds, it's the hundredths place. Now that our place value is set up, we can record our information. Our first runner is Juliana. She runs 67 hundredths miles, which means there are 0 ones, 6 tenths, and 7 hundredths. Now let's look at Christina. She runs 66 hundredths miles. So again, 0 ones, decimal point, 6 tenths, and 6 hundredths. And last, we have Megan. Megan runs 70 hundredths miles. So 0 ones, decimal point, 7 tenths, and 0 hundredths. Take a moment on your own paper to draw your place value chart and see if it looks like mine. How did you represent? Did you represent each distance the girls ran in your place value chart? Do you have 67 hundredths for Juliana, 66 hundredths for Christina, and 70 hundredths for Megan? Great job. Looking at your place value chart, where should we look to figure out which decimal has the greatest value? Are we going to look in the ones column, in the tenths column, or in the hundredths column? In our place value chart, even though the ones column is the highest place value, we don't have any values there. So we're going to go to the next highest one, which would be our tenths column. We're going to use the tenths column to compare the values. We see 6/10, 6/10, and 7/10. So here we have different values that we can compare. Just like when we compare whole numbers, when we compare decimals, we need to look for the largest place value and then find the largest one with different digits. 6/10, 6/10, and 7/10. Which one is greatest? That's right, 7/10 is greatest. So Megan ran the greatest distance. Once we've compared in our highest place value column, we can then compare in our next highest place value column, which is the hundredths. We know that Megan ran the highest amount, the furthest amount, because she has the highest value in the tenths place value column. Now let's compare Juliana and Christine. Juliana ran 7/100ths and Christina ran 6/100ths. Which one is greater? That's right, 7/100ths is more than 6/100ths. So we know that Megan ran the farthest because she ran 7/10 and 0/100ths. Juliana ran the next farthest with 6/10 and 7/100ths. And Christina ran the least distance with 6/10 and 6/100ths. We can use inequalities to show these comparisons. Who ran the furthest again, and what was her distance? That's right, Megan ran the furthest. She has 7/10 and 0/100ths. This amount is greater than Juliana, who ran 6/10 and 7/100ths. And Juliana's amount is greater than Christina, who ran 6/10 and 6/100ths. This inequality puts the values in order from greatest to least. 70/100ths, 67/100ths, 66/100ths. 70/100ths is greater than 67/100ths, which is greater than 66/100ths. When we are comparing decimals, we need to think, what is the largest place value? And in what place value do I see different digits? Today in your work, you can use visual models or number lines just like we did yesterday, but place value charts might be an easier way when comparing more than two decimals. Let's look at the try one more. Put these in order from least to greatest. 5 plus 1/10 plus 6/100ths. That's an expanded form. Let's go ahead and write that in standard form so that we don't get tricked. 5 plus 1/10 plus 6/100ths. Should look something like this. The next one is in word form. 5 and 25/100ths. I like to remember that the and is my decimal point. So this number in standard notation would be 5 and 25/100ths. 5 and 25/100ths. The next two values are already in standard form. 5 and 9/100ths and 5 and 3/10ths. I have a place value chart ready to go. You can pause the video and draw your place value chart on your paper. Let's fill in our values. In these decimals, we have some values in the ones place. Then we have our decimal point. Then we have our tenths. And what's next? That's right, hundredths. Now we can put our values in our place value chart. 5 and 16 hundredths. 5 and 16 hundredths. Next value, 5 and 25 hundredths. 5 and 25 hundredths. Our next value, 5 and 9 hundredths. 5 and no tenths, 9 hundredths. The next value, 5 and 3 tenths. 5 and 3 tenths, which means there are no hundredths. Take a look at the place value chart to see what the largest place value is and what place value has different digits. In this case, the largest place value is the ones, but do you see any different digits? No. Let's move to the next one. The tenths place value has some different digits, so let's start comparing there. What is the highest value in your tenths column? Is it 1, 2, 0, or 3? If you said 3, you're right. So, of these values, the highest one is 5 and 3 tenths. Our problem says we're going to order them from least to greatest this time. So don't get tricked. If this is the highest, let's find the lowest. Which value is the lowest? 1 tenth, 2 tenths, or no tenths? That's right, no tenths is the lowest. I'm going to box it in this time so I remember that it's the lowest. Since this is my lowest value, I'm going to record it first. 5 and 9 hundredths is less than. What's the next highest value in the tenths place? There it is. So 5 and 9 hundredths is less than 5 and 16 hundredths because the 1 is more than the 0. What's the next highest? That's right, 2 tenths. So 5 and 16 hundredths is still less than 5 and 25 hundredths. And that value is less than our highest value, which is 5 and 3 tenths. Using this inequality, we have just placed them in order from least to greatest. 5 and 9 hundredths is less than 5 and 16 hundredths, which is less than 5 and 25 hundredths, which is less than 5 and 3 tenths. In your work today, you can use place value charts to practice. Remember, look for which place value is the largest and which place value has different digits where you can compare. Don't get tricked. Pay attention to the order you'll need to put them in. Once again, your exit ticket will be a Google Doc that you can submit directly to the Google Classroom. Have fun with your math today.